Hi, I'm Amber. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Amber.
Do you want me to say a few things about her,
Yeah,
or just shout her name out loud? Okay.
Whatever you feel.
So Serena has been my sponsee for a little over a year. She was the one who kept track, so I was very happy that she did. Honestly, I'm like, her program is so incredible. I love hearing her speak every time I get the chance. I'm like one more loose marble from asking her to switch places, honestly. I love anytime I get to hear how she's doing her program and seeing the changes. So I'm very excited to hear from Serena.
Well, I'm Serena. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Serena.
So I have a sobriety date of December 30th, 2014. So I'm coming up on 10 years at the end of the month. Not at the end of this month, at the end of the year. I have a home group, which is Serenity now. We meet at the VFW over in West Seattle on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. The service commitment I have there, I am the treasurer. I'm also of service, and I volunteer for Night Watch. My service commitment for that one, I do normally I do the second Saturday, the 10 to 2 shift. I know, but this month I actually switched with someone, so I'm going to be doing that at the end of the month. And those are my current service positions. And what else in terms of that stuff? I'm currently working the steps with my sponsor. Right now, I'm working 6 and 7. Well, working on doing step 6, and I'm currently not working with anybody else. I don't have any sponsees. Yeah. So what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I know this afternoon when I was at home doing some chores, I was thinking about, I was like, well, what do I want to talk about? And the thing that came to mind for me was, and it was kind of touched on when with the priest thing from the traditions was, I know, like the loneliness aspect of this disease. So I grew up in an alcoholic household. My dad was an active alcoholic, and there was not really a time when I couldn't remember when he didn't have a beer in his hand, or I know what he called his sugar supplement in his coffee, which was whiskey. Um, and I know alcoholism runs in my family. Um, I know about 2 years. I know about 2 years ago. It was about 2 years ago. I had a cousin. I know passed. Like actually, he lost his life because he was you know I know he actually OD'd from a fentanyl overdose, and you know, and I have a couple other family members who are who are sober, but I know their way isn't this way. But I don't condemn them for not being in the rooms. What they have is still amazing. Yeah, I have a cousin who has about 10 years. I have another cousin who has, I think, about 12 or 13 years. And I'm grateful the fact that they, have found their way. Um, I know, but the loneliness factor, like me, so I grew up, I have, I have, I have 4 sisters, 2 half sisters and 2 full sisters. Of me and me and my full sisters, I'm in the middle, and I would always, you know, cling on to my siblings, because you know, they felt I don't know if they felt obligated to hang out with me, but because it was always one of those things where I had just a hard time making friends. It's a hard time just being, putting myself out there. And I was always, like with fear, being like, well, what if they don't like me? And so I would just, run and hide. I would, cling to my sisters or cling to my parents. I even remember when I was little, at one of my elementary schools. In fact, I went to three different elementary schools, which was hard because you know, it was hard going to three different elementary schools because it was, not, I wasn't able to make that community. Um, and the fact that I was also in, special education, you know, up until I graduated from high school. Um, so I always felt different. And I was like, well, it's like, well, I'm different. People aren't going to like me. So it was like, so what I would do, like I said, I would run and hide or cling to people who I felt comfortable around. And it was, of course, that was always just family members. So fast forward a little bit, like when I was in high school, um, I know I started, smoking pot and kind of drinking. Um, I with even at the time, it's like I didn't really like it. Like I'd go to the keggers, and it didn't appeal to me. It's like, give me a joint. Um, but I know throughout the years of me smoking pot, I wouldn't like I had a community, and I felt like the people around me genuinely cared and wanted me around. I know, but that wasn't the case because I look back on it now as the fact that it's like I would have money and I would supply everybody else. I even remember when I was older in my class. Um, by the time I entered my senior year in high school, I was already 18. And I was the one who would go and buy everybody cigarettes, people who weren't of age. And there was a close by smoke shop, and I would go up there and say, "Oh, I need this and this and this and that." It amazes me today. It's like, why wasn't I arrested? Like, why? Um, but it's like I felt like it's like, oh, I have something I can contribute, even though it very much could have landed me in jail. Um, but I didn't care. It's like, oh, they need me. Um, Even though they could have easily found somebody else. Um, so I yeah, so that made the loneliness go away. And I would go from, so fast forward a little bit. So my drinking didn't really take off until I was in my 20s. In my late teens, I met a guy when I was 17, and I was with him for 7 or 8 years. I can't exactly remember how long. So I was 23, 24 when him and I broke up, and then for me, that's when my drinking took off. Um, and I went from so I was with him, and then he broke up. He broke up with me, and I went, and that's when I started regularly going to the bar because I was in so much pain, and I was lonely, and I was hurting, and I wanted something. But drinking took that away. Um, what I thought. Of course, it didn't take it away, but I was able to not feel what I was feeling, because I know those feelings of loneliness are scary and painful, and I didn't want to face them. Yeah, so after that happened, so that happened for quite a while. Um, yeah, so that happened, and so I went. Would go from like in terms of my progression, I went. It was hard and fast. Like I came into the rooms when I was 29, and but the entire time when I was actively drinking, I was still always so lonely. Even though I'd be in a bar full of people, I would um, I would still feel alone. Um, and it's like I don't know. I'd go home with any guy that would pay attention to me, um, which would put me in dangerous situations. And I would go, I would do that, and I was just like, so towards the end of my drinking, it's like that pit of like loneliness and despair and this pain just was overwhelming. But when I finally did come into the rooms, um, my actually what gave me that nudge to come into the rooms was the fact that the person I was seeing at the time, he ended up having the amount that he and I were drinking and his drug use. He landed himself in the hospital with pancreatitis, and he almost died, and that scared me. But when I found that out, like the very next day, I went to a meeting and I said, "I'm Serena. I'm an alcoholic, and today is day one." And the only thing that I remember from that meeting, um, well, a few things I remember from that meeting was the fact that I was a blubbering mess. Um, but there was these two women who actually took me after the meeting. They asked me, they're like, "Have you eaten?" I was like, "No." And I was like, "I've had a ton of coffee and a ton of cigarettes." And they took me out to lunch. And I was like, why are these people doing this? It's like, why do they care? Because by this time, it's like, I didn't have any self worth. I didn't have any, self esteem. I thought I was, below dirt. Like, I really thought that. But they showed me compassion and love and just like the genuine care that they had on their faces was amazing. In fact, one of those women ended up being my first sponsor, and I know she took me through the book, and I know she helped me so much. Um, and so slowly that loneliness started fading away because it was just so at time like even in my sobriety that loneliness was still unbearable. Um, but as I have progressed in the program, um, you know, I'm very much one of those people. It's like, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And for me, it's been very slow. Like today, I have amazing people in my life and people who I can genuinely call a friend. I can call any of them, and I don't at any point in the day being like, oh, even though I'm not always good about it, and reaching out and saying, I hurt. I feel like crap. I don't want, and they'll share that space with me, and it's amazing. Um, like today, I very much have, you know, I have self worth. I have self esteem. Like I care about myself and the people about me. Um, and it's very much, I know, a testament to, I know, my higher power in this program that I know I have a life today. Because I know before I was very much just, I was just existing. It's like all I wanted was that next drink. And because my solution for such a long time was oblivion. It's like, what would I rather have? Like me look at myself, or would I rather have whiskey? And I would always go for that whiskey. But today I know that's not my solution. Like my solution is, I know, is my higher power and the relationship I have, I know, with the people around me, and you know, and actively, you know, trying to practice these principles on all my affairs. And I'm grateful that I can do that today. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, we have no dues or fees. And we put those no dues or fees in here.